Episode 66 of the Boomtank Business Show. The Boomtank brand is growing. At the end of 2017, I talked about new things to come, and this is a sampling. I now offer executive consulting and coaching. And for entrepreneurs and business owners, I offer online media, speaking, and PR readiness packages and business packages too. You'll hear more about it all at the beginning of this episode. Today's guest is none other than the internationally known rapid growth guy, Matthew Pollard. Matthew has been featured in Inc., Forbes, Fortune Magazine, CEO Magazine, Entrepreneur Magazine, Salesforce, NBC, and Fox. He is one of the most retweeted business coaches on Twitter. Hear Matthew talk rapid business growth, top business mistakes, and how you can succeed in business. Lots of incredible advice in this one. Let's get started. 2018, copyright, Boomtank Media, LLC, fully enforced.
Welcome to the Boomtank Business Show for sharp female entrepreneurs and businesswomen who are ready to shine. A show about more freedom, more income, less worries, and cutting-edge information for you to create and grow your business. From branding to social media, marketing to the latest technologies, we've got you covered. Now, here's your host, Carolyn Cole.
Welcome to the Boomtank Business Show for sharp female entrepreneurs and cool guys who support them. This is a show about building your business and your personal development. Why personal development? Because your personal growth is the biggest key to your business success. I am your show host, Carolyn Cole, founder and business owner of Boomtank.com. I was a Fortune 100 and Fortune 200 company senior trial attorney. Now I make the case on behalf of your business dreams and happiness too. The Boomtank brand is growing. I help executives, high-level teams, entrepreneurs, and business owners with their business and personal development needs. I'm also an organization development consultant, a business strategist, an entrepreneur, podcast show host, live streamer, professional speaker, and a certified professional coach. Contact me to discuss your individual group and or team needs. My premier success and personal development coaching is included in all of my packages. For executives, company officers, and teams, I consult and coach on message, mission, leadership, life design, and professional public speaking. On the organization development side, I consult and coach on change management, leadership, and mission statements. For entrepreneurs and business owners, I offer professional online public speaking and PR readiness consulting and coaching on claiming your expert celebrity with professional live streaming, live stream show creation, podcasting, podcast guesting, virtual summit presentation, professional talk creation, professional public speaking, media one-sheet preparation, and pitching. I help you go pro now to confidently get seen and get heard. Visibility is the lifeblood of your business. Let me expertly help get you PR ready. For entrepreneurs and business owners, I also offer professional review and pricing for your business packages. It's time to create high-value, correctly priced offers, programs, and services to create a business you can scale. I also include my Momentum Ball coaching designed to get your momentum ball rolling and keep it rolling. Go to Boomtank.com and click on my coaching consulting tab to read more and to book a session with me to discuss your needs, or email me, Carolyn@Boomtank.com. Let's talk about designing a package that expertly meets your needs. And to book me as your next professional speaker, podcast show guest, or other featured guest, click the speaking tab on Boomtank.com to send me a request or email me, Carolyn@Boomtank.com. I speak on a variety of business and inspirational topics and would love to hear from you. Now back to the show, Boomtank.com. Totally honored to have today's guest, Matthew Pollard. Matthew became known as the rapid growth guy for challenging business owners to think differently and inspiring business transformation across the globe. He had to first conquer some challenging personal and professional obstacles, from having a learning disability which left him with the reading speed of a sixth grader in late high school, to being painfully introverted, to being laid off in his first job just weeks before Christmas. Matthew is an inspirational example of how adversity in life seeds the success of the future. Jump ahead a few short years, and Matthew's been responsible for 5 multi-million-dollar stories of his own, transforming over 3,500 struggling businesses worldwide in addition, and he has founded the Small Business Festival, listed by Inc. as among the top 5 business conferences in the nation. That's outstanding. We're going to be talking about that in a bit. He is an outstanding small business advocate, rapid growth coach, and an international keynote speaker. He's a host of 2 top-ranked podcasts and the author of The Introvert's Edge, called a game changer by Neil Patel. Praised as the real deal by Forbes, Matthew has been featured on Fortune, Inc., Entrepreneur, and CEO magazine, and is a regular TV, radio, and podcast guest nationwide. He's also an award-winning blogger. He has an award-winning blog. That's true, isn't it, Matthew?
It totally is, and I have to say, I'm going to have to get you to do all my intros from now on.
Oh,
That's
you're
amazing.
sweetheart. Well, actually, it came from you. I just read from your site, and your website, by the way, is a knockout. So congratulations on that. It's beautifully done, and you are doing so much. First off, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on Boomtank. As I said before, I'm totally honored to have you today.
I'm totally honored to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
How did you overcome the adversity I mentioned in the introduction and make the leap to where you are today, Matthew?
For me, not moving forward is not really a solution or something that feeds into my mind. I think my father, I grew up, as you said, with a reading speed of a sixth grader in late high school. And if my mother didn't continually look for a solution, I still wouldn't be able to read. And she managed to find this thing called Irlen syndrome, which everyone thought was a joke. But I put these glasses on, and then all of a sudden I could see again. It didn't mean I could read straight away, but it meant I could start the learning process of reading. So I think my mentality, my father used to always say, storm the torpedoes. If you think you can or think you can't, do it anyway. And I think that, my mother finding these glasses for me and then a solution occurring has kind of left me with the mindset of there's always a solution out there. The question is whether or not you're willing to put in the effort to find it. And I think that's always been the case in everything that I've done. I've managed to finish high school, and I have to tell you, it was a struggle. I finished in the top 20% of the state in Melbourne, in Victoria. But, it took everything I had, every piece of energy. And I said to my father, I just can't see myself going to university for a year. I needed some time to recover. And I took that job at the real estate agency. And then I got laid off. I'd been working there for a few weeks, and I got laid off before Christmas because, they shut down. And I couldn't find – in Australia, it's our summer and Christmas break all at the same time. So I had to find another job quickly, and the only jobs that were hiring were commission-only sales. Again, when you're stuck in a situation where you only have one option, you have two choices. One is you go and sit on the couch for a year or wait out the Christmas holidays, or you go and take action. And, my father had broken his back for 80 hours a week trying to support us. And it just wasn't an option to lay on the couch and say, sorry, Dad, it was just too hard. So I had to move forward. And for that, I had to find a way for an introvert to be able to sell. I remember I got 5 days worth of product training, no sales training at all, thrown on a road, and they said, just go sell. And door after door, I got told no, I got sworn at. People are lovely, especially around the Christmas time when they're all stressed out. It was a horrible time, and it was 93 doors before my first sale. And I remember I made $70. I was ecstatic for about 45 seconds until I made this realization that I had to do this again tomorrow and for the rest of my life. And I was like, you know what? This isn't okay. I need to find a solution. And again, most people would gravitate to a Brian Tracy book or a Zig Ziglar book. That wasn't a solution for me because it would have taken me the year to read the book. I had a reading speed of a sixth grader. So instead, what I did is I started looking for another solution, and I discovered YouTube videos. And if I had have made the decision at that point that it was too hard, I would not be where I am today. And 99% of people would have made that choice, that because they didn't have the gift of the gab, because they were introverted. I was scared to even talk, shy to talk to my own friends and speak up loud, let alone anyone else. And most people go at that point, it's too hard, and they stop. For me, I kept searching for a solution. I discovered YouTube, which was just becoming known about that time. And there were some great sales videos on there. And I had to believe that sales was a system like any other that could be learned. So I went through the process of learning, and every day I'd go out and sell for 8 hours. I'd go home and learn for 8 hours. It was a horrible 6 weeks. But by the end of that 6-week period, I was invited into my manager, or the state manager's office. He's like, Matt, I have to tell you, you're currently ranked as the #1 salesperson in the Southern Hemisphere for this company, which was just so happened to be the largest sales and marketing company in the Southern Hemisphere. It took me 6 weeks. And the reason why is because when the cards are stacked against me, I storm the torpedoes and I continue to move forward. And instead of saying this isn't possible, I asked the question, if it was, how would I go about doing it?
You were 19 this time that you just described, is that right?
Well, actually, I was just about to turn 19. So it was about 3, maybe 4 months before my 19th birthday.
And then by the age of 30, you had multi-million-dollar success.
Yeah, I'd been responsible for 5 multi-billion-dollar success stories. So my first business, and this is one of the things that a lot of people do. They gravitate to what they're comfortable with. And even I fell victim to that. So when I'd been very successful in telecommunications, I got promoted 7 times in the space of 12 months. I ended up the state manager of the largest sales, the head office state of this large sales and marketing company. And I just made the decision that it was time to go out on my own. And of course, the only thing I knew was telecommunications. So I opened up a telecommunications shop, but I made the decision to be a broker. And I found and discovered a really strong niche that I really could target. And within the space of 3 years, we grew to be the #1 brokership for business to business cell phones in the country. And, in year 3 alone, we turned over $4.2 million. So that was really the start of that trajectory. But by the time I got to year 3, I tell you, if somebody had mentioned a call rate to me, it was like nails on a chalkboard. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. And one of the things I tell people all the time is I can create rapid growth at any business, but there is nothing worse than having a rapid growth business with customers that you can't stand or selling a product that you just don't care about anymore. So one of the things that I spent a lot of time finding is, I built business from everything from telecommunications to nationally accredited education right through to construction. And each one, the education company was the fastest growing nationally accredited education company in the country. It just grew so quickly. We had 3,500 business owners as students. And that's the first one I started to feel like I'd started to find my true mission of helping people build a business. But even then, I still wasn't feeling like I was having a big enough impact in where I wanted to, because I was teaching all business skills. And what I realized is what I absolutely love to do is teach people how to obtain rapid growth by doing the things that are outside their normal functional skill. I mean, most small businesses tend to stick in this realm of, I've got a great functional skill, so I'm going to go out into business for myself and the customers will come. And I just want to make a great 6-figure income that revolves around me, my family, and my life, not the other way around. And what they find they're presented with is the fact that customers don't understand the awesomeness of what they do. They might get some initial success, but then they struggle constantly to get new customers, a few months later, because, there's always that competition based on price. And there's always someone doing it cheaper, and they struggle to articulate why what they do is so amazing that they should pay extra. And as a byproduct, the reason for that is because they don't have a strong unified message that excites and inspires customers to want to know more. They don't understand the power of niche marketing, so they're speaking to everyone, which is truly speaking to no one. And then they don't know how to sell in a way that's authentic and congruently them. And I say authentically congruently them because I do not believe in bulldog sales techniques. I do not believe in hard closing. I think sales should be just a natural step-by-step process that just leads to a sale. But the problem is most people are trying to bend themselves to the marketplace. So as a byproduct, it just feels incongruent and uncomfortable. So I believe that if you have those 3 steps right, then the sales process becomes easy. And then all of a sudden, the person that has, that's never learned how to sell can make sales even without the sales process, but armed with a sales process, they can make phenomenal income.
Your flagship program is Rapid Growth Systems. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that I find, there are a couple of things that really I find people struggle with when it comes to rapid growth. And the first one is really understanding the kind of business that they're in and how to separate themselves from everyone else. And I'll give you an example. I had a client, Wendy, who was a language tutor out of California. So she taught kids and adults how to learn Mandarin. She came to me with a really big problem. She'd been working in teaching people Mandarin for years, and she'd always been able to command $50 to $80 an hour for private consultations. And, that gave her a nice income. Now, the problem that she was having, though, is there were lots of people moving into California at that time, and they were opening up their own language tuition businesses. And of course, like anyone starting their own business, they're willing to give away their services, not give away, but charge a ridiculously lower price to get their first success stories, their first testimonials on their website. So she was competing against other people that were willing to charge $30 to $40 an hour. On top of that, she was competing with people. We now live in this global economy, and people started to offer on Craigslist from China, I'll teach you for $12 an hour. And then other people were willing to offer it to you for free as long as you taught them English along the way. So she was competing with all of these cheaper competitors and free competitors. And, she was losing current clients. She was struggling to get new clients. And she came to me and she's like, Matt, how do I compete in this incredibly crowded marketplace? And I said, Wendy, you can't compete in that crowded marketplace. What I would like you to do is avoid the battle altogether. So I looked at all the clients that Wendy worked with, and I discovered there were 2 people specifically that she taught more than just Mandarin. These were executives being relocated across to China. And what I noticed is there were 3 things specifically that she helped them with. The first thing was this concept called galaxy. Now, for when I say galaxy to people listening from the Western world, whether it be from Australia all the way to the United States, when you hear the concept of galaxy, you assume I'm talking about outer space. Well, in China, it's their word for rapport. So, if Carolyn, if I was going to try and sell you something, in the Western world, I would sit down, I would have a meeting with you. And at the end of it, if I was a really bad salesperson, I would say something like, so do you want to move forward? And you would say, yes, no, or everybody's favorite, let me think about it. Now, if you said, let me think about it, I'd call you back a week later. And if you still said you wanted to think about it, I know my chances of getting that sale are going down and down, right? What Wendy helped people understand, though, is how different it is in the Western world. In the Eastern world. See, people want to meet with you maybe 5 or 6 times before they even discuss business. They probably want to see you drunk over karaoke once or twice. Now, there's a reason for that. They're not talking transactional 12 and 24-month deals like we talk about in the Western world. They are talking 50 to 100-year contracts. I mean, this is longer than a lot of people's lifetimes and marriages. So they want to know the kind of person that they're getting into bed with. That's much more important than the terms of the contract. On top of that, she helped them understand the difference between e-commerce in the Western world and e-commerce in the East. And the third thing, and probably the most important thing, is she helped them understand the importance of respect. See, learning the language is not enough in China. You've got to reduce your accent or it's seen as disrespectful. I just got back from about 6 months ago from speaking at the Electrolux 150 Vice Presidents Summit, which is all, 150 vice presidents of Electrolux. They command, over 1,000 staff each. And when I handed them my business cards, they hold them, they look at all the detail on the front, they flip them over, they look at all the detail on the back, they then bow slightly and put it in the card case. Anything less than that is seen as disrespectful, and you're just not going to be able to do business with people. They're not going to do business with you. So she helped them understand these things and why they were so important. And I said, Wendy, you're doing so much more for these people than just language tuition. What are you doing? She's like, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to help. There's just a couple of things that, they needed to know. And I said, Wendy, you're stuck in your functional skill. What I want you to do is it fair to assume that as a result of the help that you're giving these people, they're going to be more successful in China? And she said, well, I mean, yeah, that's the point. I mean, that's what I'm trying to help them with. I said, great. So why wouldn't we call you the China Success Coach? Why wouldn't we create a China Success Intensive that help people with just these skills, as opposed to fighting this battle of trying to teach people how to learn Mandarin? So she said, well, this sounds great, but who would I sell it to? And I said, well, think about who your ideal customer would be. And she said, well, obviously that would be the person being relocated to China. And I said, well, you know what? You're right. I mean, these people are terrified about being relocated. I mean, I moved from Australia to America and I was terrified, and everybody here speaks the same language. Imagine what it would be like to move to China where everyone's speaking a different language. I mean, just when I travel overseas, it's quite daunting for me. I said, so sure, yep, those people would be terrified, but not your right customer. She goes, oh, you're right. It'd be the corporation that's sending them over. And I'm like, well, yeah, they've got sometimes tens of thousands, sometimes millions, if not billions of dollars riding on that executive being successful. But no, still not your customer. So frustrated, she's like, well, who then? And I said, what about the immigration attorney? She's like, what? I said, well, you think about it. When I moved from Australia to the United States, I had to go and get a visa. Then I had to go and get a green card. And both times I went through an immigration attorney. I said, your ideal client's the immigration attorney. And we researched them, and they charge about $5,000 to $7,000 to do a visa, and that's for all the bureaucracy, all the paperwork, and they've got to find a customer for that. So they'd be lucky to make $2,000 to $3,000 worth of profit after that for every person they organize a visa for. I said, that's who you sell to. Offer them a $3,000 commission for any successful introduction. So she started to speak to them, and they were like, this is great. What would I have to say? And all they had to do was say, congratulations, you've now got your visa. I just want to double check you're as ready as possible to be relocated across to China. And they would respond with, yep, no, I think we're doing good. We got our visa now. Thanks very much. We learning the language. The kids are getting pretty good at it too. And, we've got our place organized. I think we're set. And they responded, no, there's a lot more to it than that. I think you need to speak to the China Success Coach. Wendy then got on the phone with the easiest sale in the world. These people were terrified to be relocated. The corporation had so much money riding on the fact they were being successful. So it was the easiest sale in the world. And Wendy charged $30,000 for this 5-week program. Minus the $3,000 commission, she made $27,000 with no hard sell whatsoever. That's the power of having a strong and unified message and understanding the niche market and packaging and pricing accordingly. See, for Wendy, if she had focused on just language tuition, she would have been she would have been fighting an endless battle. And sure, I could have taught her sales skills, but she still would have been struggling every day, successfully getting clients, but still finding it a lot harder than she needed to. But by instead saying, what is outside the scope of my functional skill, understanding that that's Galaxy e-commerce and respect, and the high level benefit is China success, the power of that message got her heard in a crowded marketplace. If I went to a networking event and I said, oh, I'm a business coach, you think about what that would be. Right now, it's not who I am either. I mean, I'm a business coach, I'm a branding expert, I'm a social media strategist, I'm a master in NLP, I'm so many things, and nobody cares. And they also don't care how long I spent learning those skills. But when I say I'm the rapid growth guy, I help organizations large and small obtain rapid growth, the simplicity of that message gets me heard in a crowded marketplace. So for a lot of people out there, they may have great businesses, they may have great offerings, but if they can't excite and inspire people to want to know more about what they do, they'll go to a networking event and they'll say I'm a business coach or a ghostwriter or I'm a real estate agent or whatever they do. And then the person says, oh, I'm not really looking for that. And now they feel like they're stuffing something down somebody's throat. As opposed to when I say I'm the rapid growth guy, or Wendy says she's the China success coach, or other clients of mine say they're the authority architect or the narrative strategist, people are like, hang on a second, I don't know what commodity box to put that in. What exactly is that? And then you get to explain on their invitation the awesomeness of what you do because they asked. And then that changes the whole game. And then once you've got your story is very similar to the Wendy story I just shared, and you understand the entire business model of what you provide, then all of a sudden you can build that into an online website. But most people, as I said, come to me for sales advice. The truth is there are a number of things you need to have. Firstly, you need to understand your business why, your passions, your drivers. The second thing is you have to move past all these mindset hurdles that you have. Like if Wendy had gone, oh yeah, but that's different, it scares me, she wouldn't have obtained the success that she did. Then you've got to get the unified message right. You've got to understand your niche. You've got to get the packaging and pricing right, and then the stories. And then once you've done that, you learn to embed it into your networking process, create a sales system around it. And then the whole process just becomes so easy. And once you have that full system, you'll be surprised. Even as a horrible networker, because you've got all of those things together, people will be gravitated to you because you're the only person at that event that's truly got it together.
Let's talk about your Small Business Festival. It's been named a top 5 must-attend business conference by Inc., sponsored by Facebook, GoDaddy, Google, Capital One, and the City of Austin. The Small Business Festival provides free education, this is on your website as well, training and workshops by world-class speakers and business leaders, all completely free, to over 8,500 attendees. It has earned 4 government proclamations and an endorsement from the Small Business Administration as a result of the festival's contributions to the small business community. This year it's going to be the first week in May in Austin. Tell us about that.
I really created that for the same reason. You asked me why what I'm passionate about doing. What I'm passionate about doing is helping small business owners achieve rapid success in their business. But more than that, I'm really about them making sure that they succeed. I mean, the success rate in small business is horrific. And the reason for that is that there's no support. They feel like they're in isolation. Everybody that they speak to is trying to sell them something, and everybody that they speak to is offering conflicting advice. I mean, it's a real struggle for an introvert, for a small business to survive in the initial years. And what I found was that there was, in America especially, there was nothing really to help small business succeed and grow. I mean, tech is kind of the hot word at the moment. So there's tech events everywhere. There's meetups for tech. There's, startup events. There's pitch events. There's all these things. And when I got here, it didn't matter where I went. I got asked to speak or judge startup events. And I just realized that there was nothing really to support the small business community. So what I decided to do was start an event that was a collaboration opportunity for all of small business. And, it didn't exclude tech, but it included it just as much as the dry cleaner, the electrician, the plumber, the accountant, the lawyer. And what I did was I made the decision that it was going to offer nothing but free events, which sounds ridiculous if you're trying to create something, if it's all free. But I, being a good salesperson, because I understand the strategies that required, I managed to get sponsorship from Capital One, from GoDaddy, from Google, from the City of Austin, from WP Engine, so many sponsors anyway. So I managed to get them to flip the bill for me to help small businesses create these free events. I managed to get all the co-working facilities and other locations like corporations to give up their space. I managed to get speakers to donate their time to provide these great free events. I got TV and radio. We got, I think, over 20-something interviews in our first year. I made the decision to run it with a team of individuals. Within 60 days, we went from not a single speaker, not a single sponsor, not a single registered attendee, and no media, to media everywhere, two government proclamations, over 100 speakers, 1,200 people attended. By year 2, we grew out to Buffalo, New York, Sacramento, California, San Antonio, Texas, and we had over 5,000 people attend for these free events, and we had over 300 speakers for those events. So the reason I created it was to help small businesses realize that there are things outside their functional skill that they need to know to be successful, and create a learning forum for them to be able to obtain that information completely for free, but in a safe place where there's no promotion and no selling whatsoever.
How did you, within 60 days, garner that momentum and support for your event?
Well, remember what I said about being willing to do the work. So the 60 days was really a hard time. So firstly, I had to convince a sponsor to be able to do it. So what I did is I picked up the phone and I called the city of Austin. Most people would think that you can't just pick up the phone and call the city. I have this rule that I just do things if I think that they'll work. And instead of saying I could never do that, I was like, well, how will I go about doing that? So I picked up the phone and I said, look, I want to create this collaboration event for all small business, and I just couldn't imagine doing it without the support of the city. So I got a meeting within the space of a week. I then went and had a conversation with them and said that I really wanted their support, and I really wanted them to help me promote the event. And they agreed to do it because it was in the best interests of small business right across the city. So we then went, once with the support of the city, I then walked into South by Southwest, which is an event that happens in March. And I walked into Capital One House. And I walked around until I realized that there was somebody that looked like they were in charge. And I walked up and I introduced myself and said, we're doing this thing with the support of the city, and I'd love to have a conversation with you at some stage while you're here. Convinced him to meet me for breakfast the following morning. And by the end of breakfast, which was about a 2-hour meeting, he asked me a ton of questions. We had a handshake for a 5-figure sponsorship. Leverage that sponsorship to all the other sponsors. Now, getting the first speaker was the hardest thing. People would be, I'm not going to speak at this new event. But once we had the first speaker, the second speaker wasn't so difficult. And then the third speaker wasn't so difficult. And then next thing we knew, once we started to get some publicity, which was really just picking up the phone and calling the news desk at the local TV station and said we were going to do this, they got us on TV. I mean, morning shows are the easiest thing in the world to get on because they're always looking for great content that helps people, but they don't want to have anything promotional. So we picked up the phone and we said, it's National Small Business Week coming up. We're doing this fun thing. Can we get on TV? Next thing we knew, we had an avalanche of speaking requests, and we put up the reservations. We asked everybody to mail their lists to talk about the event, and then we grew. It's just saying, instead of, we got 60 days, maybe we do it next year, we made the decision, if we were going to do it, how would we go about doing it? And then if we were going to do it, why wouldn't we do it now instead of waiting until next year? Because even if we pulled it off even in a little way this year, well, the chances of it being successful are so much more next year, because it's always hard to pull something off the first time. And generally, you're only going to get traction a couple of weeks, a couple of months beforehand anyway. So why not just pull the trigger and get moving?
What is the biggest mistake you see small business owners making when it comes to marketing and sales, both online and offline?
You know what? Not doing marketing is probably the biggest problem that I see. So, I've talked about, I talked about the story of Wendy and how, she managed to understand what she was passionate about, understand the things outside the scope of her functional skill. These were things that she was, she didn't have to change who she was. These were skills she already had. And then, create a unified message and understand her niche and then create a sales system off the back of that. What I find is most people don't do that. So what I would suggest is, I've got this really, I mentioned the podcast, Better Business Coach podcast, episode 17, Forget About Goals, Why is the Key to Success. I did this workshop with about 200 individuals at the National Freelance Conference. And we went through setting those goals and understanding what people were passionate about and what their why statements were. And then we went through a 5-step process where people discover their niche of willing to buy clients and craft their unified message. And for people that want that template, just go to matthewpollard.com/growth. You can download that template and you can then, come up with that unified message and understand your own niche. But I did this with this group. And at the end of this session, just going through that 5-step process, I said, now put your hands up if you believe now you've got a stronger unified message that'll allow you to excite and inspire customers to want to know more about you, and it'll make you be able to get more customers. 97% of the room put their hands up. Now, here's the sad part. When I said, now leave your hands up, if this is the most amount of time you've spent on marketing in your business since you started your business. And 85% of the room kept their hands up. This was a 45-minute session. So the truth is that if you listen to that podcast, episode 17, forget about goals, why is the key to success, and then do the 5-step template at matthewpollard.com/growth, you will succeed much more you'll have a higher chance of success than most of your competition. The truth is that just most people don't do that. So if you do those two things and dedicate some real time, you will succeed. And that's really the thing. Most people, whether consciously or unconsciously, completely neglect sales and marketing in their business, and they focus on doing the functional elements because that's the stuff we were taught at school. The sales and marketing elements, we really weren't. And while we say we want more customers, what we really say is we want to do it without the hard work. And in truth, it isn't actually that much hard work, but what you have to do is follow a very specific process around working out why you're different. Stop worrying about the tactical elements. While, I've written a book called The Introvert's Edge, and I give away the 7 steps to, in chapter 1, and you can get this at theintrovertsedge.com. You can download the first free chapter, and, there's so much value in that. It tells you the steps in the sales process, and if you do nothing more than that, just apply that, you'll double your sales in the next 60 days. But the problem is that if you start with sales, you've kind of already lost because your business doesn't have a strong message. You don't understand your niche. You don't understand your packaging and pricing. And same with Wendy. She could have become very good at selling language tuition, but then she would still be in the language tuition business instead of selling a $30,000 package. So it's so important that you understand all of the strategies. But what I find is people tend to focus on tactical things. So they spend money on Facebook ads. They spend money on webinars. They spend money on all the tactical things that are going to get a short-term reward. But in truth, it's so competitive because they're competing with everybody else in a really crowded marketplace. By spending a little bit of time coming to the start, working out what defines them, what makes them unique, what works out what their unified message is, and then discovering their niche and their packaging, their pricing, and then building on the sales system, then all of a sudden their entire business transforms. And, I've got a webinar that talks about the 3 pillars towards rapid growth, and you can find that at matthewpollard.com/webinar, and it breaks it down. And, I've had people that have just done that webinar. I had a florist that gave me a video testimonial recently that did that webinar and doubled her business within 60 days. And I was, to be honest, I'm continuously surprised. I mean, this is a person that just opened the door and hoped customers showed up and then doubled her business in 60 days by just going through that webinar because she actually focused on her business marketing, not just opened the door and focused on making sure the flower arrangements were right.
You wrote the highly successful and acclaimed book, The Introvert's Edge. You have the Better Business Coach podcast. You also have the Introvert's Edge podcast. Your book provides a step-by-step process by which even the most introverted person can become a sales master while remaining authentic. I read years ago that introverts are generally the best salespeople. Do you agree? If so, why is that so?
So it's a funny question to ask. And in truth, my book will teach introverts how to beat their extroverted competition, absolutely hands down. Yes, introverts can make the best salespeople. They can make the best networkers. They can make the best keynote presenters. The reason why they feel that they can't is they feel like they have to have the gift of the gab. But what I find is a lot of introverts that are successful in business start to say, oh, maybe I'm more ambiverted, or maybe I'm starting to become more extroverted. No, they just learned a great system. And that system makes the process of selling, of networking and presenting enjoyable because they feel like they get to offer great value and they don't feel uncomfortable in the process anymore. So introverts can beat extroverted salespeople hands down with a great system because once they have a great system that gets them past the fear of building rapport and allows them to tell great stories as opposed to, trying to figure out what to say and having a system in a way that they actually know what to say. So they're not trying to come up with words because even myself, if I haven't, I did about 150 podcast interviews last year. So while I sound like I just have the gift of the gab. In truth, everything that I say is systematic. The stories are pre-prepared because I'm an introvert and that's what I have to do. So for an introvert, if you stop worrying about what to say next, instead focus on a system so you can actually participate in the meeting and actually hear what they're saying, then all of a sudden your natural skills as an introvert turn on and they become an advantage. So once we get you past the disadvantage with the system, you then have a supreme advantage over your extroverted competition. Now, that's not to say that extroverts can't be in the same playing field as their introverted counterparts, but the truth is that they have a whole other set of skills to learn. Sure, they can go in and they can be dynamic in a sales meeting, but Ivan Meisner, I had him on my Introvert's Edge podcast, and he says that, the keys to successful networking is being able to listen, to be able to be perceived as compassionate, which requires a huge amount of emotional intelligence. So what extroverts struggle with is that generally they're always thinking about what to say next and how to be funny and how to be, how to be quick with the customer. So they're perceived sometimes as less authentic, and they need to learn the skills of active listening. They need to focus on learning their EI skills. And still, they would benefit from a solid system. The problem is that extroverts aren't generally good enough that they're willing to just get by on their natural ability. So they're not willing to take a step back so they can take a giant leap forward. While introverts tend to suck at sales, tend to suck at presentations, tend to suck at networking. So they're willing to learn a system and do the hard yards that then will allow them to outsell their extroverted counterparts hands down for the rest of their lives.
Is there anything you want to add about how they can find you and how you can help Matthew?
No, I mean, you can type Matthew Pollard in Google, and I think I take every single link. So it's not hard to find me. But what I always say is I provide so much free content. My goal is to help small business, and that's really what I focus on. So if you connect with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Google+, if anyone actually still uses that, I put out so many free videos. I put out so much free content to teach you the steps. I've got my podcast, so make sure you go to betterbusinesscoachpodcast.com or theintrovertsedge.com and make sure that you check out that content and really just enjoy it. But the main focus for me is, you can go to matthewpollard.com and there's so much more value there as well. But the main focus for me is that you make the decision that while your business is going on probably just fine, and I really hope it is, there are things outside your functional skill that you need to do to be successful in business, and start in a direction that allows you to become much more successful. Because at the end of the day, you didn't build a business to do the hustle for life. Sure, you're going to have to hustle at the initial stages, but it's got to end. Otherwise, that's a hell of a life, and I don't want you to lead that.
Parting words of wisdom for the listeners. Do you have any?
Well, you know what? I'd love to take credit for these words, but in truth, it was actually a quote by Robert Kiyosaki, who said that one of the major reasons why most entrepreneurs either fail in business or never get to the success that they want is that they're always looking for all of the lights to be green before they move forward. And in truth, that just doesn't make it. That's not how success is made. Success is made by starting, putting energy behind it, and trusting that through hard work, discipline, and putting yourself on the line, that you will uncover the skill sets, the acquaintances, or the deals that you need to make that light green by the time that you get there. So just get started is really what I think the most important milestone of wisdom that I could ever provide somebody. And while it's not mine, and I won't take credit for it, it is what people need to do.
Thank you so much for everything. It's been a complete honor having you on the show, Matthew.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
You can find all links mentioned by Matthew on boomtank.com in the show notes for this episode. Let's connect on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm Carolyn Cole live on both platforms. And thank you for tuning in to the Boomtank Business Show. I so appreciate you listening, and you know I do. If you like the show, please leave a 5-star rating and some nice comments on iTunes, or subscribe on the free Stitcher Podcast listening app for Android users or Google Play. And tell a friend. Join Boomtank's email list at boomtank.com and download my free ebook, The Best Online Tools to Grow Your Business Now, containing over 75 plus hot links to grow your business. Be sure to check out my coaching and consulting tab on boomtank.com for my coaching and consulting services, and the speaking tab to book me as your next professional speaker or featured guest. And like Boomtank's business page at facebook.com/The Boomtank to join and watch my live streams. Until next time, free your mind, unleash your spirit, build your life, create your business. It really is your show. See you right here on the next next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to the Daily Boom Tank Business Show. Go to boomtank.com and get our exclusive tips and ideas to help you achieve success. It is time for you to launch your dream business and life now.